friends and colleagues who are speaking on behalf of those other organizations.
Gotta be loud. They can't hear me.
You can't hear me in the back. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Hey, Max. It seems like the microphone's not working.
It does seem like that.
All right. Well, so much for the microphone. Last time was really loud, so we brought a microphone and a speaker this time. But here I am, yelling anyway. Luckily for all of you, I'm loud. Okay. We're going to work on that microphone issue. In the meantime, again, I welcome you all. I thank you for coming out. I know it is cold. This is hardly, nice Israel weather as we stand here. But on the other hand, democracy and justice and peace and equality and those things demand our attention, whether it's warm and pleasant or cold and unpleasant. And unfortunately, it's both of those things right now. We gathered here. We were here, and many of you, a month ago, and it was the first time for us that we'd organized something like that. That we said, okay, Americans for Peace Now. Yes, we go to meetings here inside all the time and talk with the ambassador and talk with the staff about the different pieces. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Points for David. Thank you. Whoever it was, I appreciate it because I was yelling a lot. But it was the first time for us standing outside and saying, yes, we are protesting the government of Israel. Right? We've objected to many actions and many policies and many things before, but to stand up and say we're protesting this government, we're protesting its very basis, literally the coalition agreements that they made. We said it last time, I'll do the really short version this time. We are also standing here, though, speaking up for Israel. For the Israel that we care about, for the Israel that we believe in. One where there is democracy, one where there is equality, one where there is justice, and one where hopefully there will be peace. Because all of us, and we're standing here, we know, in the shadows of tens and now hundreds of thousands of Israelis who are coming out every week, and we'll see how many show up tomorrow night, right? All of them, there we go. Right, we're standing here echoing their voices, because Israelis are making it loud and clear that they too are opposed to what this government is doing. And they're opposed to the judicial, and they're opposed to the attacks on the LGBTQ community. They're opposed to the total lack of religious pluralism. But, and very importantly, they are also standing up saying they are opposed to the occupation. They are opposed to the way that this government is expanding settlements. They are opposed to the way that this government is moving ahead with its quiet little stealth annexation. And we are going to stand here and make sure folks in the embassy, folks in Washington, and folks around the country know that the American Jewish community stands with that voice too. So thank you all for being here today.
Yay!
Yay! Enough for me, at least for now. I am going to turn to my friend and colleague, our first speaker, Howard Simpreskey, on behalf of J Street.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Is this working? Not.
Push your button.
Okay, there we go. Really close.
All right. I want to thank you all for coming, add my welcome to all of you. My name is Howard Sumka, for those of you who don't know me. I'm here representing J Street, which is one of the conference, one of the protest sponsors. For 4 years, I was responsible for running all of the USAID programs for the West Bank and Gaza. We were working on economic development, advancing social and political development, and in general supporting the Palestinian Authority and what we thought was a peace process. Right now, it looks like everything all of us have accomplished since Oslo 30 years ago is in danger. I'm here today with J Street, which was created 10 years ago as a pro-Israel, pro-peace organization. With what we've seen around the world, with what we've seen threatening democracy in America, and now since the election, with the threats to democracy in Israel, J Street has added to its tagline, pro-democracy. So we are pro-Israel, pro-peace, and pro-democracy. Today, we want to express our deepest concerns about the path Israel's new government is taking. Every day, we hear of threatened new actions that will undermine its democracy and the rule of law in Israel. and that will further entrench its occupation of the Palestinian territories. These actions threaten the civil and human rights of Israeli citizens and the rights and the very lives of the millions of Palestinians who suffer under its military rule in the West Bank and de facto in Gaza. Most alarming is the Israeli government's attack on the entire judicial system. Its main goal is to reduce the power and independence of Israel's Supreme Court. This would neuter the only significant institutional check on majoritarian rule by the Knesset. Should the court strike down a law, the ruling government would easily be able to override the decision, even with the barest Knesset majority. The government will be able to enact disastrous policies to expand Israeli settlements and advance de facto annexation in the West Bank. It could undercut the rights of women, the LGBTQ community, and non-Orthodox Jewish Israelis. With a government that proudly asserts its inclusion of convicted terrorists, self-described misogynists, homophobes, racists, and religious extremists, there would be no limits. We urge Congress and the Biden administration to stand against the Netanyahu's government's efforts to undermine the independent judiciary. The administration has made the defense of democracy at home and abroad a key part of its agenda. So it should act when one of our closest allies is pulled in an illiberal and ethno-nationalist direction by its right-wing leaders. Millions of Israelis are worried about their country's future. Millions of lost it.
We'll work on that, but be loud.
I'm almost done. Millions of Israelis are worried about their country's future. Millions of Palestinians are longing for the basic human and civil rights for which all oppressed people strive. They all deserve the solidarity and support of our government and of all pro-Israel, pro-peace, pro-democracy Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. And thank you to all of the J Street folks who are here today also. All right, next I am very pleased to welcome back our friend Rabbi Esther Letterman, who...
back on the stage.
Yeah, back on the stage. That's right. You know what? They're doing this every week in Tel Aviv and in cities around Israel, and we're going to keep doing it here as long as we need to. So we are glad to have Esther with us on behalf of Truah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rabbi Esther Letterman. I'm the proud member on the board of Truah, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights. There's a number of us here today. Thank you, colleagues. It's an organization of over 2,300 rabbis and cantors who serve as moral voices in advancing democracy and human rights for all people in the U.S., Canada, Israel, and the occupied Palestinian territories. We stand here in solidarity with our Israel family who are fighting every day for a just and equitable Israel, and for a homeland that our ancestors dreamed of. We are here because we understand that the only path to that dream is through ending of the occupation. We are here because we believe that Israelis and Palestinians deserve the right to self-determination and freedom under the law, and that silence in the face of injustice is complicity in that injustice.
Yes, yes.
We firmly oppose the Israel Justice Minister's plan to dismantle the nation's judiciary, as well as modifications to the law of return, expansion and legitimization of illegal Israeli settlements, and the expansion of Israeli sovereignty in the West Bank. We also call out this government for some of the harmful things that they have said against Reform Jews, liberal Jews, and particularly the LGBTQ community. We will not stand for this. Yes. We at Truah are proud to be in coalition with the Progressive Israel Network and organizations that are fighting for an Israel that respects the dignity of every one of God's creation, an Israel that prioritizes peace over power, equity over supremacy, and an Israel that we can be proud of and that our grandchildren and children can be proud of.
Right.
This week, Jewish communities all over the United States and the world will read from Parashat Bishalach, a very special portion, the Torah portion in which our ancestors crossed the Red Sea towards salvation. And at the heart of that portion, as we stand in Shul, is the Song of the Sea. A song that echoes both the fear of what was happening, but also the hope of freedom and justice and possibility. There are many teachings in our tradition that come from that moment, but perhaps the most famous of those is the story of what happened before the sea parted. Some say it was Nachshon, some say it was a whole tribe, but regardless, the tradition says the sea didn't part until the Israelites set foot in the water. Freedom could not come until the people believed in it, had faith in it, and realized that they had some agency in making it come to be. So when we sing Mi Chamocha, when we sing Ozi V'Zimraya, we must recognize that the redemption that we praise with this song, the ability to lead our people towards a better and brighter future, that's in us too. So I end with a prayer from the Reformed tradition, words taken from the great philosopher Michael Walzer. Standing on the parted shores, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. That there is a better place, a promised land. That the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. And that there is no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands and marching together. We will march.
Thank you, Esther. Oh, Esther, you're attached.
Oh, I'm attached.
Sorry,
I'm happy to be
Esther.
attached.
Esther and I have been attached for a long time. I love that you closed with a quote from great philosopher and APN board member, Michael Walzer. Now I am also going to continue on your theme of singing and of bringing voice to our protests. And in order to do so, you guys are all very lucky. It's not going to be me. David.
Yeah, please.
First, I'd like to say I'm David Schneer, and really, I think I'm a member of half of the organizations here on my congregation. Oh, you can't hear me? I'm looking around and I see I'm a member of probably half of the communities and organizations that are here. Also came back from Israel just recently, was there during the Tel Aviv, one of the Tel Aviv protests, and also stood with hundreds of others near the Knesset at the courthouse. And others. How many of you have been to Israel the past month or so? There are a couple of people. This gentleman over here. Hold your sign up. Okay.
Avram's next, so you all see.
Oh, he's next. Oh, great. I'd like to sound the shofar. So in ancient times, the sound of the shofar was sounded as a sign of warning the people that something was about to happen, either an attack. Or a meeting of great significance. Well, we have a lot to worry about. The sound this afternoon is a sound of warning, and we can imagine if we close our eyes, that sound of warning going back to ancient times, when our people, was on their journey to the promised land, and of course, what that meant was rediscovering, what it meant to be free, because there are the challenges on the way that prevent us from being truly free were immense, even after the crossing of the sea. I need your help holding the mic.
I got you.
No, it won't fit.
I'm a full service presidency.
Full service.
You should have the words on the back of some of the signs, is that right?
Yeah.
This is Shir LaShalom, which has a long history. As many of you know, these words were the last words on the lips of Yitzchak Rabin before he was assassinated.
He stays here.
והשמש לעבור, בבוקר להאיר, הזכר שבאוויר, אותה לא תסיר. אשר קבענו, ונעפר עינם, לא יעבירו, לא יעזרו. Sing along.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you all for joining in there. And Avram, where do I leave you? There you are. Come on up. Avram Spargan is going to join us and share some words on behalf of our friends and colleagues at Partners for Progressive Israel, one of the Progressive Israel Network organizations. Everybody hear me? Louder? Yes. Not much of a screamer, but I'll try my best. Put it right in front of your mouth. Hello, everybody. My name's Avram. Thank you all for coming, and thanks to APN, to Ori and Adar for organizing. I was invited to say a few words on behalf of Partners for Progressive Israel. Partners, based in New York, is a member of the Progressive Israel Network and strives for a just and equitable future for both Israelis and Palestinians. I recently returned to Washington from Tel Aviv. I recently returned to Washington from Tel Aviv, where I completed the Naomi Chazan Global Activism Fellowship with the New Israel Fund. Together with NIF fellows from the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia, I visited with Israeli, Palestinian, human rights, and social justice activists from Jerusalem to Jaffa, Hebron to the Negev. As part of the fellowship, we joined more than 30,000 Israelis for a Motzei Shabbat demonstration at Kikar Bima in Tel Aviv, organized by the leading grassroots Arab Jewish unity organization in Israel, Omdim B'Yachad, Standing Together, Nakaf Mom. 30,000 of us stood together and rallied around the message of the poster that I brought here with me, that Yudim ve'Aravim misarvim liot oivim. Jews and Arabs refuse to be enemies. And this is the same message that brings me here today. The message of Arab Jewish unity, partnership for peace, and a shared future. That means an end to occupation, an end to settlement expansion, no to annexation of Palestinian territory, and no to the Israeli government's assault on our liberal democratic Jewish values.
Right.
My commitment to liberal democracy for all between the river and the sea is rooted in a lifelong dedication to the Jewish people and our historic homeland. I was born to 2 Hebrew-speaking parents in New York. They raised me in the tradition of the Shir L'Shalom, on the writings of Shalom Achshav, co-founder Amos Oz, and as part of the Israeli-Palestinian peace movement. I took my first step as a baby on the Tayeled in Tel Aviv. I celebrated most of my Chagim during my childhood with family in Yerushalayim. I went to day camp in Jerusalem during middle school summers, and then to sleepaway camp on a kibbutz in the north during my high school summers. I was bar mitzvahed at the Kotel and deferred my acceptance to college to spend a year studying the conflict at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Indeed, the land of Israel is my second home, my home away from home. It is forever and always where my heart is. But tragically, it's also become a source of heartbreak. As an NIF fellow last month, I witnessed terrible injustice, gross human rights violations, and an assault on everything that we as American Jews hold dear. In Masafer Yatta, my group visited with Palestinians on the verge of expulsion. In Hebron, we visited Meir Kahane Park, where Baruch Goldstein is memorialized, near the home of the Kahanist minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. And in East Jerusalem, bulldozers, checkpoints, and roadblocks abound. That said, I also come back from my NIF fellowship and can report that Israeli civil society is strong and hasn't yet given up. Israelis by the tens of thousands continue to rally every weekend, like we are today, in support of equality, justice, and peace. Finally, as a current Arab Studies graduate student at Georgetown who lived in the Arab world in Amman, Jordan, where I studied the Arabic language for 6 months, immersed in a majority Palestinian society, welcomed into the homes of Palestinian Arabs, of Muslims, during Iftar, during the holy month of Ramadan. I'm here to deliver the message that Arab-Jewish unity and a better future for Israelis and Palestinians alike is possible.
Amen.
So let's continue to fight it together, Jews and Arabs, biyachad. Thank you.
Thank you, Avram. Thank you for your words now, but even more for your commitment to peace and your commitment to this cause. Again, as he mentioned, he's speaking today on behalf of Partners for Progressive Israel, coming back from his new Israel Fund fellowship and having also previously worked with APN and probably at least 3 of the other groups. So thank you for living it. And speaking of, I am now going to bring up our next speaker. Lane Schnell is the chair of the J Street U chapter at American University. Thank you. Really loud.
Yes. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today to speak. This is an incredible opportunity to really recognize each other as allies in a struggle. Sorry, can you hear me at the back now? A little bit? All right. Really recognize each other as allies in a fight for a more progressive region that recognizes all of the inhabitants of the land. And I really just want to speak to the campus situation, because there's always some think piece or another running about how difficult it is to talk about Israel on campus and how much of a flashpoint it is. And I really think that they fail to capture the full scope of it, because on our campus, at the very least, we are asked to be quiet in some ways. We are asked to not raise our voices, to speak to especially Jewish traditions of justice and human worth, and we are asked to remain silent in the face of institutional power. And we really, that feels like a betrayal of our Jewish values on campus, to not be able to speak up when we see injustice, even when it's in Israel. And we really, we don't want to have to be quiet and to be asked not to make waves, because one of the most famous Jews of all time, Moses, very famous for making waves in an effort to bring a people to liberation, and coincidentally is the Torah portion for this week. But we really are looking for some perhaps backing, but we know that we are also in the right fight, on the right side of it. And it's really always heartening to see folks from outside the community who aren't students, although there might be some here today, some students. But it really makes us it helps us keep our footing, and really continue to fight for the justice that we want to see. And of course, everything that, all the complaints I could lodge about what we at J Street at AU have been told to be quiet about goes double and triple for Palestinian students and Palestinian rights organizations on campus. They have been been silenced far longer than we have, although the fact that it has touched even us now is just a mark of how far and how difficult it has become to fight for justice in this region and in this overall struggle. So thank you all for coming out and putting this together, and thank you to Americans for Peace Now. I have met many of probably your coworkers, and they're all really wonderful, committed human beings. So thank you all.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Lane. I know many of you have been fighting this fight and doing this work for years and for decades, and we know it continues, and it is really just heartening to see students taking this up and fighting this fight and continuing the efforts for peace and for justice. All right, David and Aaron.
Hi, I'm Aaron Schneider. I'm his kiddo. So much I'd love to say. I think, just personally speaking, I hope that we can do more to pressure our government here in the United States to do what's right. I know for any Palestinians who are watching, I want them to know that many of us are standing with them, feeling the suffering that's happening across the West Bank and across Gaza, across all of Israel, in Jenin and Masafar Yatta, as well as, of course, the suffering of the Israeli Jews. We are in this together. There's only one way out, which is together. So let's sing Salam, Shalom, Odiavo, Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo, Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo, Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo, Shalom Aleinu. Odiavo, Shalom Aleinu.
Offender Rabbi Esther Letterman to come back up here. And I don't know if any of our other rabbi friends in the crowd, I'm looking at you, Fred, I see you there, and Shira hiding in the back, and anybody else want to join us? Given that we are gathered here on a Friday afternoon, while it is not quite Shabbat time yet, we're going to be a little liberal with the rules, because that's who we are, and do a little Kabbalat Shabbat, because we are together here in community. So, Esther, are you out there? Did we lose you? I'm going to need a backup rabbi if I can't find Esther. Here we go.
What do you need?
Yeah, hey!
And Jerry.
We got Jerry. We got, frankly, everybody who'd like to come in a little closer, rabbis or otherwise. Come on in. That's right. You are right. It's the Jimmy Buffett version, Kabbalat Shabbat Summer. While we're getting ready for that, Thank you, David. Okay, one sec, Esther, before I turn this over, I just do want to say a quick thank you to all of the APN staff who helped put this together today. Thank you all. Uri and Max and Karen and Madeline, who's somewhere out here. And I do want Max to come over here and wave, because when we're finished, I want everybody, last time we did this, people said to me, how do we find out about this? We didn't know. So, come find Max, and you can sign up on our APN email list, and then you will know.
I'm short, but I'm wearing a very bright white coat. I shouldn't be that difficult to spot.
What's that? No. All right, that's it. I'll give you that.
Okay. And Dara's gonna light while
I'm going to do my best.
yeah, with the wind and
Yeah, I think that might be easy. Thank you so much. I'm taking photos with my journalist friend for
we can feel the kindling in our heart, like, you know.
The warmth of community, if not the candles.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei b'riat hafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza b'hanu, v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon yizilanu, zikaron v'mahaseh b'reishit. Ki hu yom tefillah lemikra kodesh, zecher v'tziat mimitzrayim. Ki banu ha'arta, v'tanu kidashta, mikohanim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon hilchatanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashavat. All right. Yes, a big collective hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Here. Take a piece and pass. We've got, well, let's do that. So, there's challah if anybody would like some. You know, take a piece and pass it.
Bye.
Right. Thank you all. Thanks to all of you for being here today. Again, I hope we don't have to do this again. I hope there are better days in our near future. But I bet we'll be here again. And so we will be in touch, and we will be here together in community. And I thank you all for being here and for all that you are doing. Shabbat shalom. Also, please do see Max if you're not on our email list. Max is here. She can sign you up right now. If you want one of these lovely shalom flags, feel free to take one home. And yeah.
Can sign up online?
Yeah, Max.
Oh, no, I mean,
I mean, you also can go